What happens when you squeeze an orange? What comes out? Orange juice. Why is that? Simple. That's what's inside. What happens when life squeezes you? What comes out is what's inside, your thoughts and your feelings.
Welcome to the Fusionary Health Podcast. I have a special guest in store for you today, someone who I have seen at many different biohacking conferences, doing his thing, sharing his wisdom. My guest today is Ben Azadi. Welcome, Ben.
Shivani, I'm honored to be here. Love your work. I had you on my podcast recently and you were amazing. So thank you for having me on yours today.
For sure. And you're local. You're down in Miami. So it's always fun to meet a fellow local person in the health and wellness space.
Yeah, we're not too far away from each other. We're in beautiful South Florida while everybody is in the cold. We're here in this nice warm weather. We love it here.
It's true. It's true. We're very lucky. So if you guys don't know Ben, in 2008, Ben Azadi was an obese man who went through this personal health transformation, releasing 80 pounds of extra weight and getting metabolically healthy. And ever since, Ben, an FDN practitioner, has been on a mission to help 1 billion people live a healthier lifestyle. He has over 15 years of experience in the health industry. He's the author of 4 best-selling books, including his latest, Keto Flex, and he's been the go-to source for intermittent fasting and the ketogenic diet since 2013. He's known as the health detective because he investigates dysfunction and he educates, not medicates, to bring our body back to normal function. He's the founder of Keto Kamp, a global brand that's building awareness to ancient healing strategies such as the keto diet and fasting. And as you know, I'm all about the ancient healing strategies. So welcome, Ben. And will you kick us off with your story and what led you to doing what you're doing today? And then will you also share the problem? Because I know you're very good at that. I've been watching your lectures and talks. What the problem is with our country and society right now in terms of obesity and inflammation.
Yeah, I would be happy to. And yeah, you're all about the ancient healing. I know you are, the turmeric queen. I like the way you say my last name. Say it again.
Azadi.
Azadi. That's good. It's different.
I forget that you probably say Azadi.
Yeah, no, I like the way you say it. It's awesome. It's different.
Cool.
Yeah, like so many people out there who are probably listening right now or know somebody dealing with this. I dealt with overweight and obesity for most of my life. I followed a standard American diet, which we know it's highly toxic, processed food. I had bad behaviors growing up as a kid, addictions to drugs, video games, toxic friends and schoolmates that were just bad influences in my life. And my mom even worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken when I was a kid.
Wow.
She was a manager at 2 different Kentucky Fried Chicken. So she would bring me home Kentucky Fried Chicken, of course, just doing the best she could do with her resources. But this manifested in a very unhealthy upbringing, physically obese, mentally obese. And as time progressed, I found myself back in 2007. I was 23 years old, going through a really devastating breakup, distraught, depressed, inflamed. My whole body felt inflamed. I weighed 250 pounds at this time,
Wow.
Had an extraordinary amount of body fat on my body, and my body felt like it was on fire, my knees, my low back. And I was 23 years old. I was a young man.
Wow.
I was in so much pain, physically and emotionally, that I thought my only solution here was to get out of the pain by taking my life. And I explored that. I explored suicide several times back then. I had to go on the internet and look for ways to end my life. And every time I explored that, I kept thinking about my mother, who was and is still like a superhero to me. She's done so much for me. And I didn't want my mom to have to deal with the devastation of her son taking his life. I didn't want to hurt my mom. So it stopped me from taking my life. It was the only thing that stopped me back then. But it was a vicious cycle. I didn't know how to get healthy. I never worked out, didn't know anything about nutrition. All I cared about was video games and food. So I knew I had to figure things out. And some people start to make changes with their nutrition or their fitness. They might sign up for a gym looking to lose weight. I actually didn't start that way. I actually first started on my mindset. I started to actually read books on self-development. I started to get into authors like Dr. Wayne Dyer and Bob Proctor, Tony Robbins, Les Brown, Jim Rohn, I could go on and on. These authors really opened up a whole new world to me that I never knew existed. The way that they spoke, they helped me take ownership and responsibility, which was the first step. That is the first step to great change, is taking responsibility. And honestly, I didn't even know what that word fully meant, until I learned it from Wayne Dyer. And Wayne Dyer explained it in a way that I hope your audience really understands it. Responsibility is your ability to respond to life. If your ability to respond to life is poor, then you get poor results. If your ability to respond to life is great, then you get great results. Makes sense. But how do you think that way when life is applying so much pressure, when you have all these things that you feel are working against you? And I had that mindset. Of course, I would say things. Of course, I'm overweight and obese. I have a slow metabolism. I have my enabling family members giving me Kentucky Fried Chicken. I have my bad genetics from my dad who had obesity and diabetes. Of course, I'm this way because of XYZ, external. Then I heard Dr. Wayne Dyer say something that lit me up. He said, what happens when you squeeze an orange? What comes out? Orange juice. Why is that? Simple. That's what's inside. What happens when life squeezes you? What comes out is what's inside, your thoughts and your feelings. So my thoughts and feelings were victim mindset, blaming other people, not taking responsibility. When I changed my thoughts and feelings to I am responsible, I stopped being the victim of my history, and I immediately began to become the victor of my destiny. I started to actually, okay, I can make these changes. I could start moving my body. I could start eating real food. And I started to just progress and make these small changes here and there. And then after 9 months of doing this, I went from obese at 250 pounds to as low as 170 pounds. I went from 34% body fat at my highest to as low as 6% body fat at my lowest. And it was a dream for me. Six-pack abs, right? Never had six-pack abs. Not that that is synonymous with good health, but for me, that was like a dream that I never thought I could accomplish. But more important than that was the mental six-pack that getting healthy did for me. And the toxic thoughts that I used to have, the what I call stinking thinking thoughts, went away. And I started to have healthier thoughts, and I started to do healthier things for my body. I started to love myself. And that was about over 17 years ago. And I've kept the weight off. I've learned about the metabolism. You mentioned in the intro some of the things that I've done. And unfortunately, I'm pretty rare in terms of what I did. I'm not rare in terms of I'm not special, because anybody can do it, but I'm rare in the sense that most people don't take responsibility. Most people don't think they could overcome their symptoms and circumstances. And you ask the question, like, the causes, why? Why do we see obesity rates and diabetes, and why do we see this in America and in the world? It's because of the misinformation out there. And it's not information that's going to change our life. It's the right information applied over time. But the causes are as such. Well, first, let me share this. In the book, Metabolic Freedom, I share 3 important studies that reference the state of our health, and then I'll get to some of the causes. The first study was a study from 2016 from the Mayo Clinic. And you may have seen this when you watched my lecture from Pampa's seminar, but the first study was looking at 4 characteristics. They were looking at 4 things that Americans do that will determine if they live an active, healthy lifestyle or not. And those 4 things they looked at was, number 1, they don't smoke cigarettes. Number 2, if they exercise moderate to vigorous activity for up to 150 minutes per week, total per week. Okay. Number 3, they eat what they consider a healthy diet, which is just a diet that's minimally processed. And number 4, if they're a female, they have a body fat percentage of less than 30%, and for males, less than 20%. 4 things. And at the conclusion of the study, they showed that only 2.7% of Americans hit those 4 criteria. That's it, Shivani.
Wow. Less than 3%.
Less than 3%.
It's horrible.
Horrible, right? And that was before COVID. You know, it got worse after COVID.
Of course.
Then in 2018, the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill did another study looking at metabolic health. They looked at people, they looked at blood sugar levels, blood pressure, BMI, and different metrics. And they determined at the end of the study that 88% of Americans are what they consider metabolically unhealthy. Fast forward to a 2022 study, they show it's closer to 93% of Americans being metabolically unhealthy. I mean, this is high percentage of people out there that are unhealthy. So is it our genetics? Like I used to think, bad genes? Well, we know genetics play a role, but it's a really small percentage, maybe 5% or less. And that's being a little conservative. It's probably closer to like 2%.
Wow.
And with obesity, for example, in the United States in the 1930s, obesity was almost non-existent. It was around 1 to 2% in 1930. Now Harvard is saying by the year 2030, which is just in a few years, that 50% of the United States population will be obese. Our genetics do not change that fast. There's something else going on, and that brings us to the causes, right? So the first half of Metabolic Freedom is part 1, and it's all about the main causes to metabolic dysfunction. The second half is the solutions. So some of the main causes, I won't share them all because we'll be on this for hours, but the number one thing is insulin, the hormone insulin. And we've heard of insulin being a fat storage hormone, which is true. It's also an energy sensor and has many other roles, but the hormone insulin is not bad. It's only when insulin is constantly called that makes it the bully of other hormones. You see, when insulin is around all day long, your other hormones cannot coexist. They go into hiding. And when I say other hormones, I mean hormones that help you burn fat, hormones that help energy production, mitochondrial health. And most people, like those 93% of people in the study that I referenced, have high insulin levels. That is the first domino to fall. When your insulin levels rise, it triggers weight gain, high blood pressure, prediabetes, diabetes, cancer, autoimmune. I could go on and on, fatty liver disease, a lot of the things that you talk about.
Absolutely.
But it's the insulin. It's the first domino to fall. And you could have, and I talk about this in the book, I show studies that show you could have high levels of insulin, meaning hyperinsulinemia or insulin resistance, however you want to call it, for on average 6 to 14 years without any of your blood sugars changing, any of your A1C, which is the 3-month average of your blood sugars changing at all, because your body is so busy screaming out, shouting out, producing insulin that it keeps your blood sugars in check until the message is not heard. And now all of a sudden your blood sugars rise so dramatically, type 2 diabetes or prediabetes is diagnosed. So the first cause is high levels of insulin. That's the first thing we want to target.
Wow. But isn't it true that nowadays, I mean, when you were speaking about causes and how our genes don't change that fast, I thought to myself, what did change? What changed? There's a lot of factors that changed over the 50 or 60 year period. You can call it glyphosate, like the farmlands, factory farming, food quality has been affected dramatically. Of course, we know that. But another big one is food access. We switched from eating in a fasting window, as you're going to talk about soon, but we eat all the time. We munch all the time. I'm sitting at my desk where I podcast, and today for the first time I brought snacks in because I was starving, and I thought of you. I was like, I bet he doesn't snack. I bet he just eats his meals in his window and keeps it clean. So that's interesting about insulin because I think we underestimate it. And as a woman in my 40s, I found that if I adjust my workout life a little bit, I will not be a snacker. And the minute I try those HIIT workouts again, all that voracious hunger comes back in. So I'm glad you're talking about insulin. Please continue.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. And again, it's not that insulin is bad. It's only when it's spiked throughout the entire day. And most people, like you mentioned, what changed, right? Well, we went from eating whole foods and eating that within a certain window to eating more processed foods, especially processed carbohydrates, and eating it throughout the entire day. One of the studies I also referenced in the book was a patient population study from Dr. Don Klum, which he just had hundreds of his patients write in a food journal every time they ate something. So that could be a full meal or that could be a snack, like as you mentioned, but anytime they ate, write it down. And the average person was eating 17 to 23 times a day.
Holy God.
It's insane. That's glucose and insulin spike. And it disrupts your metabolism. It's like you work from home. I work from home. We have our studio here. Let's say we get into the zone and we're being productive. And it's like having somebody bang on your door every hour disrupt your workflow. It's what's happening to your metabolism is disrupting your workflow when you're eating so frequently. So the frequency and the poor quality, the lack of nutrients, the lack of quality in the food are two big contributors. So out of the three macronutrients, carbohydrates, fat, and protein, it's carbohydrates that spike insulin the most. And I'm not saying carbs are bad for you, but I am saying it will spike insulin the most, especially processed carbs. So if you feel like I have high levels of insulin, and you could test that with a blood test called a fasting insulin blood test. It's a really important test. Then the solution will be to lower your carbohydrates and eat more protein and fat. Protein does spike insulin, but it's a very moderate spike. Fat barely even moves the needle on insulin. So it makes sense to have more protein and fat. So that's the first cause. It's the glucose and insulin spikes. It's the people that are stuck burning sugar and only burning sugar. We want to switch them to burning fat, to using ketones. They're essentially those 93% of Americans that are metabolically unhealthy are in what I call a keto deficiency. They forgot how to burn fat.
Okay. And then what are some of the others?
So that's the first one. The other one is, you mentioned it earlier with glyphosate, and I put that into a chapter on environmental toxins.
Nice.
Glyphosate is in there because, of course, that's an environmental toxin.
Absolutely.
We used to think that in order to lose weight, you just eat less and move more. It's very simple, right? Just get yourself in a calorie deficit and you'll lose weight. And it does work in the beginning. And then all of a sudden it doesn't work. And the solution to most people are to just cut your calories even more and create another deficit. And then it works a little bit and then it doesn't work. And all of a sudden your metabolism is out of whack. It's not about calories. You don't have to rely on counting calories or willpower or deprivation. That is the old way of thinking. It's what's happening to your metabolism. And these toxins play a big role in your metabolic function.
True.
There are two classifications of toxins that I speak about in the book. The first classification are obesogens. These are environmental toxins that enter our bodies through our food supply, water supply, through the air, through cleaning supplies, perfumes, etc. It's all out there. And when these toxins enter your body, they trigger a pathway in the body called PPAR gamma. PPAR gamma is then going to shuttle those toxins out of the bloodstream because the body does not want those toxins to pool up in the bloodstream and enter vital organs. So it activates PPAR gamma to shuttle those toxins from the bloodstream into your adipocytes, into your fat cells, because there's enough room there. And if there's not enough room there, it will actually increase your fat cells or even create new fat cells for those toxins to go live in. That's because the solution to pollution is dilution. That's how the body, the innate intelligence, dilutes these toxins. And it's all for the sake of survival. That is the number one priority for the human body, is survival. So it does this to save your life short term while creating disease and obesity later on. So it creates obesity, it creates larger fat cells. They're called obesogens. Then we have toxins, which are a newer classification called diabetogens. These are toxins that actually disrupt the beta cell functions in your pancreas, which produces insulin, leading to insulin resistance and diabetes. So toxins actually could create obesity and just extra weight and diabetes. So where are these toxins coming from? Some of the simple things that I'll share with your audience today is the stuff that's in our daily day-to-day household items, or just the day-to-day chores that we do. So number one are plastics. Microplastics are a big one.
True.
A plastic generation. Everything is plastic water bottles. And they're finding plastics in male testicles, in our arteries, and all throughout our bodies. And these toxins are obesogens. They create problems. And there was a study from the University of Newcastle that showed the average American consumes enough plastic in a week, about 5 grams, which equates to a credit card.
Isn't that nuts?
Crazy.
And we
credit card a
wonder
week.
why we're so sick. And we underestimate the effect of plastics. Imagine through your childhood and through your life, Ziploc bags, plastic water bottles, plastic plates, plastic spoons. When we travel, sometimes I think to myself, wow, you're so healthy in your house. And then all your travel is so toxic because you're eating on the road. So yes, continue, because plastics to me are like a pet peeve. And the fact that we're polluting our entire ocean to become plastic and we don't understand that we're then consuming it it's another whole topic. I think we all need to save the oceans and thus save ourselves. It's a symbiotic relationship.
All of that. It's just not good for us or the environment. So simple things we can do is drink out of glass water bottles like I have here instead of a plastic water bottle. We could not use plastic Tupperware, and never put plastic Tupperware in a microwave. That's going to leach a ton of microplastics. Even if you don't use your plastic Tupperware in a microwave, just putting food with fat in it leaches the plastic. So use glass Tupperware. We don't want to use plastic cutting boards because you get a bunch of tiny microplastics that go into your food. Use wooden cutting boards. And then also cash register receipts are an issue too. There are studies that show that individual thermal receipts, let's say like the gas station or Whole Foods or Publix, wherever you go, the receipt that you say yes to and grab contain 1,300 times more BPA in a receipt than in canned food, right? You touch the plastic that goes in your bloodstream. I see women put it in their bra. I see people put it in their pocket. That is going to leach into your bloodstream. So we don't want to say no to cash register receipts is what I'm trying to say. Say no to cash register receipts. Yeah.
I totally.
Good. Smart.
Yeah.
And then we have, of course, like super toxins, like glyphosate. Glyphosate is a big issue. And I talk about, I reference Italy in the book. Yeah. And what's unique about Italy and Europe in general, but Italy, when I studied the health of Italy, and I know you know this, it's really interesting that Italy has a fraction of the obesity that we have. Mm-hmm. They have a fraction of the diabetes. They have a longer lifespan than we do. Yet they have a fraction of the gym. So it's not that they're working out more. Yeah, they probably walk more. Well, so what is Italy doing that we're not doing? Well, they've banned glyphosate in 2016, along with other artificial ingredients like red dye. Yet we still allow glyphosate in our food supply. It's all over the place. It's in 60% of the rainfall. Studies are showing that it's 90% plus in our urine. Every American's urine is urinating glyphosate. Glyphosate is mitochondrial poison. It chelates minerals from your body. It makes your body work harder, destroys your metabolism. We cannot escape glyphosate in the United States, even if we eat organic. So you want to take fulvic and humic minerals, which helps to chelate it. Turmeric, as you teach about, great antioxidant to deal with the oxidative component of glyphosate. Keep your detox pathways open. So you want to do things to deal with the glyphosate. But yeah, Clean 15 versus the Dirty Dozen is a great thing to look at, right? Clean 15 are the top foods. The EWG show have the least amount of glyphosate versus the Dirty Dozen that have the highest amount. You could just Google that.
True.
That is, there's a lot more to it with environmental toxins, but that is another cause there. It's creating obesogens and diabetogens, leading to an epidemic of disease.
Absolutely. I lived in Italy last year. I went there with my kids. My husband was like, if your kids won't agree to go to summer camp, no worries. How about you all just move to another country and immerse? And I was like, I love this idea. I forget that I'm an entrepreneur. I can work 11 months of the year, pack it in so I can take a couple of weeks off.
Wow.
And one of my studies I was running was, can I live in Italy and will my body change if I lived there for 3 weeks? And I felt so much better. Everything was cleaner. I even went to the stores to buy treats and desserts. And when I picked up the labels, I was like, I can have an almond flour cookie and it just has 5 ingredients. And it's a packaged food at the store. It was at like Eataly, which I think we have in Miami.
Yeah,
now.
We do.
Yeah. And these are real clean ingredients and they taste delicious. So it was just such an eye opener of we can have fun foods and treats. We can have everything and we can have it cleaner. We just choose not to. And so it was such a powerful reminder of seek out those best choices, make those best decisions. And like you, I'm a big proponent of everyone understanding this toxic body is the problem. And we can all day long clean and clear. And the language we use is also important. So I talk to my body all day and say, you are a great detoxer. You are healthy and strong. I have vibrant health. I have the best gut health. I clear everything that needs to be cleared. And by having that mindset, I think we have such the power to shift everything. So what you're talking about is all those root causes of obesity. And I'm sure you have many more because there are many, but insulin sensitivity is a big one. And the fact that we're having those insulin spikes all the time is such a problem. So when you wrote this book, Metabolic Freedom, that you're talking about today, was your goal to show us how to look at and think of our metabolism completely differently? And what are some of those key points that you make that create the biggest shifts for people?
Great question. Yes, absolutely. That was one of the goals. There's a lot of myths around the metabolism and just weight loss in general. Most people think they need, as I mentioned, cut calories, lose weight, then get healthy. But it doesn't really work that way. We don't lose weight to get healthy. We get healthy to lose weight. The weight loss is a side effect of good health, meaning nobody has a weight problem. When I was obese, I never had a weight problem. It's a weight symptom. It's a result of the actual problem. So with the metabolism doesn't necessarily work in speeds. It's either efficient or inefficient. And I describe that in the book.
Nice.
When we think about our metabolism, a lot of people think they're overweight because of a slow metabolism. But when I dug into the research on our metabolic rates, which is our basal metabolic rate, which is our body's metabolism's ability to burn calories just at rest, the studies actually show there's not really much changing until age 60. It shows that our metabolic rate pretty much stays the same until we hit age 60. And at age 60, it shows about a 0.7% decline after that, year after year. But then the reason why it shows that decline was because of muscle loss.
Okay.
So if
it does feel that way, Ben. It does feel like our metabolism slowed down. Personal experience, me and all my friends.
It feels that way. It does, but it's not a result of the metabolism slowing down. It's a result of metabolic inefficiency. It's a lack of flexibility. That's what's happening, right? And that's the point. But yeah, I get it. It's like I know what you mean. It's like, what do you mean it doesn't slow down? Like, I could eat the same thing when I was 25 and now I'm 40, and it's a different process. That's because of the inefficiency, right?
It's the flex.
But this is great news because number one, you never have to even get a slowdown in the rate if you maintain and build lean muscle mass. But number two, you could have a metabolism that's functioning the same way at age 93 as when you were 23 if you do the right things. And I talk about it in the book.
I love it.
So we want a healthy metabolism that is flexible, that is free. That is the concept of metabolic freedom. Metabolism could be really complicated if we wanted it to be. I could show you the Krebs cycle. I could talk about the Randall cycle, and we could geek out together, and then nobody would really benefit because it would just go right over their heads. It doesn't have to be complicated. The way I explained in the book is this. The Greeks call or define metabolism as transform. We take food energy or body fat, protein, carbs, fat, whatever substrates that are available, and we transform it into energy and we burn fat. That's what the metabolism does. A metabolically free metabolism could do that with the plate of food in front of us, whether it's a high carbohydrate meal, a vegetarian meal, an animal-based meal, a protein and fat meal, or your body fat stores, and still produce energy and still burn fat. Either way, it transforms that into energy and you feel good. That's what metabolically free means. Unfortunately, most people cannot do that. So that's why I wrote the book. It's to describe how to do that. And then the book ties it all together with a 30-day plan to achieve metabolic freedom. But this is good news because your metabolism is incredible. It will adapt. If you make the right changes, you just need to do three things. Identify what's been interfering with it. And that's where the part one of the book comes with the causes. Number two, remove that interference, which is part two of the book, the solutions. And then number three, you just let your metabolism heal the body. You let the innate intelligence heal itself, and it will do it. I don't care if you're a woman, a guy, a vegetarian, a meat eater, or 25, 75, or 85. It will work for you. I've seen it work for thousands of people.
Wow. And so is one of the primary methods to build metabolic flexibility, that metabolic freedom. Two key ways that I know that you approach it are keto, I think of it as ketotarian, but a keto lifestyle.
Yep.
And then intermittent fasting. So for me, intermittent fasting is an ancient healing secret. It's been used by so many cultures for thousands of years. Full day fasting, multi-day fasting, or just even holding intermittent fasting, 12 hours or more. And then when it comes to keto, my question for you always when I meet you is, vegetarian here? I eat a lot of eggs. I do a lot to get that, try to reach that 100 grams of protein. I find it very difficult. So this last year I told my children, you can become meat eaters because I don't think this is doable without bringing a lot of processed ingredients in. And if I'm going to eat a ton of tofu and protein shakes and protein bars to get to the goal, what are we doing here? Putting processed foods, which, as you said, there's toxins if we're putting processed ingredients into the system to achieve the goal. And so whenever I talk to people, they're like, intermittent fasting is too hard. Being keto is too hard. Can't do it. And I feel like you have a path forward for us where we can do it. Maybe we don't have to be 100% perfect, but we can flex in and out of this in a really productive and healthy way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It can be done whether you are a vegetarian, a vegan, or a meat eater. It is a little bit more nuanced as a vegetarian and a vegan, depending on which side you fall on. But it's doable because in order to get into ketosis, what needs to happen is you need to lower your glucose and insulin levels. So how you do that can be by eating a whole bunch of protein and fat. But the main way is to lower your carbohydrates, right? For most people, Shivani, if you could keep your total carbohydrates under 50 grams total per day. You're frozen, by the way. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, I'm going to keep going then.
Okay.
If you keep your total carbohydrates under 50 grams per day, coming from non-starchy vegetables, you should be in ketosis. And you can do that with fasting. Now, I do recommend doing keto before you do fasting. And let me just preface this and say, keto is not even a diet, technically. It's a metabolic process. We're designed to use this metabolic process. Not to always do keto, I'm not a fan of that, but to use it from time to time, to burn fat instead of sugar. When you do that first before you start doing fasting, you'll feel incredible when you fast. But when you fast as a sugar burner, it's a lot more difficult to do that. So there are two things that I talk about in the book in order to achieve ketosis in 7 days or less without symptoms. And this could be applied to vegans and vegetarians as well. The first step is to gradually decrease your total carbohydrates to 50 total grams of carbs per day. Gradually, though, let's say you're consuming 300 grams of carbs per day right now. Then on day one, it would be 250 grams. On day two, 200 grams. Keep doing that until you get to 50 grams or less of total carbohydrates. Okay. The second step, which you do at the same time as step one, which is the gradual decrease in carbs, the second step is to follow the 2-2-2-2 rule, which is, and I'm gonna customize this for a vegetarian. It's 2 tablespoons of olive oil or avocado oil. That's the first 2. 2 tablespoons of coconut oil. Let me see. I got to do this in a way. So we're going to do this differently. I'm going to restart that because I'm doing this thinking about the vegetarian. So the first 2 is 2 tablespoons of olive oil. The second 2 is 2 tablespoons of avocado oil. And the third 2 is 2 tablespoons of coconut oil. The fourth 2 is 2 teaspoons of sea salt, right? All of that's vegan, vegetarian.
Yeah.
You hit those fats, increase those fats, lower your carbohydrates. By day 7, you should now have unlocked the switch to fat burning and producing ketones. You've lowered the glucose, lowered the insulin. Now you're burning fat. After that, then the focus becomes increasing protein. This is where it might be a little bit tricky as a vegan vegetarian because you're not going to be eating steak and eggs. But actually, eggs, you mentioned you do have eggs. So if you are a vegetarian who has eggs, that's a great source of protein. If you don't have eggs and you have seafood, salmon, herring, sardines, these are all good options. Small fatty fish are good options. But if you're a vegan, then you want to go with like edamame, tempeh, natto. These are more vegan protein sources. So it can be done. You just have to lower your carbs to get there and eat those healthy fruit-based and saturated fats that I mentioned.
Nice. Hi, I'm Dr. Shivani Gupta, and I created Fusionary Formulas because I believe everyone deserves a natural way to support their body's health. If you struggle with joint discomfort or stiffness, our Turmeric Gold delivers powerful curcumin in a form your body can truly absorb. It's science-backed with the highest quality ingredients and designed to support your body's natural inflammatory response. Take the next step in your health and wellness journey today. Visit fusionaryformulas.com and use code FusionaryHealth for 15% off. Fusionary Formulas, ancient wisdom, modern science, maximum impact. It sounds far-fetched. This idea of bringing in fat like that is usually, it's so against what I learned in the 80s. So I know that fat is healthy. I'm so aware. I get it. But sometimes we've been so programmed to eat this low-fat diet. So even in my own house, the cooking is all Indian vegetarian with just a little bit of healthy oils and butters. And I have to remember to add fat on top of my meals as like, hello, remember flaxseed oil, ghee, these are good fats for you. So are you saying that we can create this Ben Azadi concoction of fat with salt that we circle up in a glass, spin in a glass and drink, and thus we're going to feel fuller and we're going to put the body into a state where it'll burn fat rather than all the sugar we're eating?
Yes and no. So I'm glad you brought that up because sometimes when I explain it, that is the thought process. I have all these fats in one sitting. That sounds kind of weird. You're not going to do that. You're going to use those fats with your foods.
Okay.
Right? So you're going to eat like broccoli, Brussels sprouts. You're going to saute it with the olive oil, the avocado. It's going to be with your food. Salad dressing, dips. It's with your foods, not necessarily separate.
Okay.
And if you feel like it's too much fat, some people might get loose stools or diarrhea because their liver is not producing bile to break it down. Then you could cut that to the 1-1-1-1 rule.
True.
But you have it with the meal. So if you have 3 meals a day, you're going to incorporate some of those fats throughout those 3 meals. And you're only doing that 2-2-2 rule for the first week in order to get into ketosis. After that, the focus is on protein and you're getting the fat that comes naturally with the protein. Of course, you're going to use some of those oils to cook your food in still, but you don't have to necessarily hit a target. But to your point, we have been brainwashed to believe that saturated fats and fats in general make you fat, cause high cholesterol, heart disease, and that's just misinformation. The term that I speak about in the book is lipophobia, which is the fear of dietary fat based off of 50 plus years of misinformation and propaganda. Fat is incredible for the body. It builds your cell membranes, builds your sex hormones, because cholesterol, for example, is the base of all of our sex hormones, pregnenolone, and then it goes into all of our hormones, testosterone, estrogen, everything. But if we don't have enough fat and cholesterol, you could starve those hormones. You could starve the brain. So cholesterol is great. Fat is great for you. Don't be afraid of it. It's not going to make you fat. It doesn't raise insulin, as I mentioned. It lowers inflammation in your body. It's amazing for you. I know that this might be different than what you've been taught, but I'm telling you, fat, it heals your body. It doesn't raise your risk of heart disease or metabolic syndrome. It actually reverses or prevents a lot of those conditions.
My brain is trying to absorb it. And what's funny is I've been told the same thing probably 1,000 times. Every time I work with a health coach, I'm like, okay, my blood work came back this way. And I'm so opinionated on health. I've done all my own research. I have my own PhD on it. So I believe my way is right. So for me to change a behavior, I usually have to hire a coach and say, hey, will you please guide me? This is a new philosophy and it grates a little bit against my system of what I believe, but I know you're right. I know it. So will you help me? And so every time a coach has sat me down, they're like, fat at lunch, Shivani, fat in the snack, Shivani. And then you'll see your brain is happier. And every time I do it, my brain is happier. Always. Yes. And I can tell sometimes. Add tzatziki or add anything into a meal that's a fat and your brain's like, oh, thank you. You gave me the fuel and now I can do my job.
Yes.
So my next question is, what is 50 grams of carbs approximately? Is it like a piece of toast? Is it like a cup of rice? Do you have an approximate on that?
Well, we want those carbs to come from non-starchy sources. So we don't ideally want carbs that are going to spike glucose. So toast and rice
are not it.
Not it in order to achieve ketosis. Now, that doesn't mean you are avoiding that forever. Yeah. That's just in the first few steps to achieve ketosis. So 50 grams of carbs could be 2 cups of broccoli sauteed in one of those healthy fats I mentioned, another 2 cups of Brussels sprouts, several cups of like arugula, lettuce, dandelion greens. I mean, it's a lot of these green leafy vegetables. You could actually get away with, some people could have 60, 70 grams of carbs and still maintain ketosis, but for others and most people, it's under 50 grams. So there's ways to make it delicious, make it fulfilling, satiating is what I'm trying to say. And fat helps you become satiated. But I do recommend using an app like a Chronometer or MyFitnessPal to input the food you're eating just to see where you're going. And it's not net carbs. Some people do focus on net carbs, which is total carb minus the fiber equals the net. I used to teach that many years ago, but I don't like that approach because it creates a lot of confusion and gray area. So for me, it's total. If you keep it under 50, 50 being the limit, coming from green leafy vegetables, non-starchy vegetables. So that would be cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, lettuce, arugula, dandelion greens, even some squash, even though that's a fruit. You could get away with some squash and maybe really small amounts of like sweet potatoes as well, as long as it's not too much. And some people that are more muscle bound and more active could actually get away with some rice or some toast, as you mentioned, but it depends on the person.
Okay. My next question is, how do you do this and not turn into a really mean mama? Because sometimes some of us try to put ourselves on less carbs and we become, I know this is the first question my friends would ask me if they were listening to this episode. They'd be like, Shivani, we're still moms, we're still business women, and we have to be nice to the people in our house at the end of our day. And usually it's our belief system that carbs keep us that way. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't want to create mean mamas. That's for sure. We want happy mamas. Mamas are amazing. Um, I would say to test your fasting insulin first and foremost. Maybe you don't even have to do this that aggressively. Maybe you don't have to go as aggressive as I'm mentioning here. If your fasting insulin is between, let's just keep it simple. If your fasting insulin is in the single digits, then you might not even have to be this aggressive. But if you're fasting insulin, which is a blood test, it's cheap. It's like $30 if you pay out of pocket. Very easy to do. If your fasting insulin is above 10, then this will be important for you to do. So how do you do it where you don't turn into somebody who's hangry, hungry, and angry?
Exactly.
I have noticed when you do it this way, gradually decreasing the carbs, gradually increasing the healthy fats and sea salt, you don't become hungry and angry. You actually feel better. You have more mental clarity, less brain fog, less joint pain, better sleep, better recovery from workout. You actually feel great, so much so that you love the way you feel. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is like, I've never felt this way. Here's why. When you're in ketosis, ketones actually communicate with your mitochondria, and it creates mitochondrial biogenesis, the creation of new mitochondria. We know the mitochondria are these little battery packs in our cells. They help you produce energy, which help you feel good, helps raise your metabolic rate, which helps you burn fat. The brain has the highest concentration of mitochondria. So ketosis, once you get fat adapted, you can do this in 7 days with the protocol I gave you. By day 7, your brain's going to be in such an amazing state where you feel incredible. There's no symptoms required. I have a lot of moms in my programs, and they do this, and they're skeptical. They're hesitant sometimes at first. They think, I run on carbs. How am I going to get through this? And I just tell them, trust the process, do it gradually.
Yeah.
If you want to take 2 weeks to do this, then take 2 weeks to do it. Do it even slower. But once you get fat adapted, you're going to feel so good. You're like, oh my gosh, my brain feels like it's never been before. I'm actually more productive. I'm more present with my family. I have more energy and I'm losing weight and my joint pain is gone and I'm getting better sleep. So
Amazing.
go at your own pace. Everybody has their own pace. I give you a 7-day protocol. If you want to take that to a 14-day protocol, that's fine too. But I do have it all outlined in detail in the book at the end, which is the 30-day reset.
Amazing. I can't wait to read this book. You had me sold on brain because to me, I always want my brain on point. I want it able to focus. I meet so many cool people and learn so much. I want to be able to retain it. And the other day, my husband was saying something to me and I said, the children sucked up like 25% of my brain, right? Because he was asking me something about the past. I can't remember a lot of the details of their first 10 years of life. I think I was just in that fog of motherhood. And so what you're saying is we can get our brain back to super sharp, which I'm functioning well on what I perceive as like my 75% memory, but I want 100% max brain power all the time. And so a lot of my life is designed around that. My sleep, I work out in the morning to move my energy. I do eat healthy fat because I know it's good for my brain. So that's actually my biggest motivator. And when I hear about brain health issues, dementia, and all those things, which I'm now obsessed with, I'm like, wow, our insulin sensitivity is going to lead to that, our insulin resistance. We have to do better.
Mm-hmm.
And so thank you for teaching this, because again, sometimes I have to hear things like 100 times before I'm willing to try the thing. But you got me there on brain. And so when you do this metabolic freedom idea that you have and this concept that you're sharing in the book, and I know you've worked with thousands of people already, what are some of those success stories that you have? Because sometimes we need to hear what's happened to someone else for people to be willing to step up to the plate.
Yeah. Success stories are always incredible. The testimonials, you have a lot of them as well. I'll give you two. I'll give you one for male, one for female to make it even here. There was a gentleman, and I just released the podcast on this yesterday because he was so inspiring. I wanted to interview him on my podcast. And I put out a YouTube video last year that was titled, and this is a bold statement, the title of the YouTube video was "How to Lose 30 Pounds in 30 Days, the number one fat loss method." All right. People were commenting like, "That's not healthy. Yeah, right. No way you can do that." All the hate. But then some people were excited. And there was one guy, his name is John Miller, who we were Facebook friends, but I didn't know him in person, but we were Facebook friends. And he decided, I'm going to do this. Now, this protocol is the exact protocol in my book, 30-Day. It's a Metabolic Freedom. It's the 30-Day Plan of Metabolic Freedom.
Nice.
I just gave the general blueprint for it, but it's in more detail in the book. But I wanted to test it out on my YouTube audience. That's why I put it out there. Right. So this guy, John, watched it and followed it. And I remember he was going live on Facebook every day throughout the 30 days. Day one of Ben's 30 days of fat and 30 pounds of fat in 30 days. Day 7, day 14, he was tagging me. And I was starting to see this. I was like, cool. And then he was sharing his progress. And he completed the 30 days. And he didn't lose 30 pounds in 30 days, unfortunately. He lost 44.4 pounds in 30 days.
Holy crap.
You might think that sounds unhealthy, Ben. Well, he was really overweight, so he had a lot of weight to lose. Keep that in mind.
Okay.
He reported that he didn't feel like he was suffering. He actually had more energy, more mental cognition. He was satisfied. He was getting better sleep. And he followed it to a T. And he inspired his friends to start doing it. And he's starting to do other things for his health and doing longer fasts. So like he's just transformed his health and he looks incredible. And we put the before and after photos. So that's an example of somebody who took massive action, and went over and beyond. So I was thinking of changing the title to like how to lose 40 pounds in 30 days, but I left it as such. Then we have, I don't know if I could mention her name, but in the book, I referenced her. I forget the name I gave her in the book. Let's just make up a name. Let's call her Sasha. So Sasha was in my Keto Kamp Academy. She's still in my Keto Kamp Academy, which is one of my programs. And she joined 2021. She was dealing with long COVID symptoms, but her story was really crazy because when she got COVID at the beginning stages of COVID, she got really sick where her oxygen saturation plummeted. She was rushed to the hospital. She was on a ventilator, and they essentially told her, like, get your affairs in order. Like, we're not sure if you're going to make it. She was like this close to dying. She said goodbye to her children, and it was really, really sad. God had a plan for her because she actually woke up out of a coma and was able to get her oxygen saturation up without the ventilator. And, they rehabilitated her to get out of the hospital, and she was able to survive, thank God. But she was still dealing with like excessive brain fog, high blood pressure, breathing issues, oxygen issues, and getting tired just walking up a flight of steps. And she didn't know what to do. So she joined my Keto Kamp Academy because one of her friends was a student and still is. And she started to follow the protocol. She did keto first, did intermittent fasting. She did some carnivore. I know it's different than what you do, but she did some carnivore eventually.
Cool.
She was able to completely transform her health. But she lost a ton of weight, blood pressure lowered, brain fog got so much better. She's still dealing with a little bit of some lingering long COVID symptoms, but she's getting better every single month. But here's the thing that happened for her that's the most incredible thing, and I talk about this in the book. And you mentioned earlier, I love what you shared, Shivani, about I talk to my body. I command it to be healthy, and that is Probably the most important thing you can do for your health. Chapter 10 in my book is all about that, by the way. This is where I reference her because she kept saying on our group coaching calls, I'm a COVID survivor. I'm a COVID survivor. We hear this with cancer. I'm a cancer survivor. And I said, Sasha, you're not a survivor. You're a COVID thriver. You need to change the self-image and change your paradigm around that. If you keep saying survive, 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 what are you doing at a cell level? It's just like you're barely getting by. But if you say thriver, like you're thriving now. And she stopped and she said, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm a COVID thriver. And she was so proud of it. And now she tells people, I'm a COVID thriver. Right. So if you're a cancer survivor, you're not a cancer survivor, you're a cancer thriver. Like change the language. The way you speak to yourself and speak out loud has really impactful, as Shivani mentioned. So anyways, those are two examples of a male and a female that had amazing results. And I'm proud of both of them.
Isn't it the best feeling?
Yes, it is. It's
I
very
don't know
cool.
a feeling better than helping people and seeing them get those results. Sometimes they tell me their results and I'm like, will you say it back to me? Like, what did I say to you? Because that result's incredible. I want to look like that and be like that. Good job. They're
I
like,
love it.
I feel like I have a Shivani on my shoulder and I just listen when you remind me self-care and take care of myself. Well, Ben, I have loved talking to you today. I know I could talk to you for hours, and I am so excited about your book. I'm ordering it and reading it for myself and for my whole family. You know, I think when we come from a family with the genetics that we have, we assume we're predestined. And I hear that message a lot in my family, my cousins, and everyone's like, well, that's just what we've been given. And you're such a powerful reminder that you are not that genetic destiny. You can forge your own destiny with metabolic freedom, which is the key to preventing chronic inflammatory disease and all the things that we see rampant, and also obesity, which is something a lot of us struggle with. We find it difficult to maintain our weight in the modern day life with all the external factors. And so I love everything that you shared today. And is there any final message that you have for us? And will you share where everyone can find your book and find you?
Thank you, Shivani. You said it so beautifully. And I love your work. And I'm excited for your book next year when it comes out. It's going to change so many lives. I can't wait to read that book.
Thank you.
The book is available May 13th. Metabolic Freedom is available May 13th, which is a week after this is being released. However, you could pre-order it right now. It's available on hardcover, Kindle, and Audible. I'm actually in the process of narrating the Audible, which you're going to go through that process. You're going to do it yourself, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, come on. I love it. So it'll be available in all three formats. And if you order the book now, whether it's a pre-order, if you're listening or watching after the fact, a post-order, if that's what it's called. But when you order the book over at metabolicfreedombook.com, we're giving away an entire free course that has 12 lessons on the metabolism that I designed myself, fasting, keto, metabolic health, and other lessons in there, along with exclusive interviews with Dr. Jason Fung, Cynthia Thurlow, Megan Ramos, Gary Brecka, and Dr. Daniel Pompa. These are interviews you cannot find anywhere else. The retail value for the course and the interviews is $997. You get it for free as long as you order the book at metabolicfreedombook.com. Put your name, email, and order number, and you'll be automatically sent an email with login access to the course. So get it on either a Kindle, hardcover, or Audible, and I'd love for you to get the book. The last message here, as you said, chapter 10 of the book, like that is, are you going to be at the, I know this is after the fact of the release. Are you going to be at the Biohacker Expo next week?
Yeah.
Okay. You're going to be at my lecture at Friday afternoon?
Yes.
Okay. I love that you're going to be there. That's when I first met you last year.
Yeah.
My lecture is going to be all about chapter 10. Chapter 10 of the book. If you don't read the whole book or listen to the whole book, please, please, please at least read or listen to chapter 10. It will change your life forever. It's my favorite part of the book. I might write a whole book just on chapter 10. It's all about how your thoughts influence your metabolism to create either disease or perfect health. And I discuss something called the self-image in that chapter. I'm going to go deep into it during my lecture at the Biohacker Expo, but I go deep into the book. But the self-image, you cannot outperform your self-image. Your self-image is how you view yourself. And just quickly, I know we're at the end here, but this is important.
Yeah, please share.
When I lost my 80 pounds of fat, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, I had 6-pack abs. I was looking at myself in the mirror with my shirt off, looking at my six-pack abs, but the self-image I had of myself was still an obese man. So I kept finding ways to match my self-image, meaning I started to gain the weight back. I started to eat pizza, drink alcohol, do the things to match the self-image, to sabotage myself. It wasn't until I changed the self-image of I'm actually a lean, healthy person who has perfect health that I stopped doing that to myself. And I stayed lean and healthy ever since then. When we're looking to lose weight, first of all, what happens when you're trying to lose weight? What happens when you lose your keys? You automatically go looking for it.
Right.
When you have the mindset, I want to lose weight, you lose 5 pounds in a month, and then you go looking for the 5 pounds that were lost, and usually you find 7 or 8 of those pounds. So you gain it back. You don't want to lose the weight. You want to release the weight.
Right.
And you want to change the self-image you have of yourself. Whether you have a self-image of an overweight person, an obese person, somebody who has cancer, somebody who has MS, somebody who has autoimmune or fatty, I don't care what it is. If you have that self-image of yourself, you're going to continue to course correct to match your self-image. You cannot outperform the self-image. You have to change the way you view yourself. How do you do that? Well, the book shows you how to do that. You do that with what I'm holding here. You do that by affirming the new self-image on an index card. You write, I am so happy and grateful now that, and in the book, I give you the affirmation. The affirmation is, I'm so happy and grateful now that I am at my perfect weight. I am healthy. I love myself. The perfect health I seek is now seeking me. I remove any blockages between us. You keep reading that. You keep repeating that until it goes from the conscious mind to the subconscious mind. Then it changes your self-image. Now, all of a sudden, you stop sabotaging yourself. You start to thrive. Now, your self-image is a healthy, lean person who's cancer-free, autoimmune-free, whatever it is. So that is the most important thing there. And I didn't go deep enough for you to really get it, but the book, chapter 10, goes deep. And if there's nothing that you get from the book, please let it be chapter 10. I hope you read it and listen to it. And you'll go deep with me on next week when I talk about it at the conference.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Ben. I love that you shared that message as the last message, because oftentimes our mind gets caught up in shiny apple syndrome. We're like, what's the cocktail he said? What was the food? What time do you want me to stop eating? We get really detailed on A, B, or C in the sequence of what we're supposed to do, completely forgetting that there's always this rubber band effect, this boomerang effect, that if we don't have body, mind, language, everything in alignment, we're going to keep seeing that old self and bringing ourselves back to it, as opposed to holding this new frequency, this new vibration, this new self that we created. And I think so many of us have done that so many times. So many people I know, myself included, I've lost 20 pounds at least twice, where you lose all the weight and then boom, somehow it's back. And so I love that you're going into that, because it is a key piece to the process, and it's a key piece to releasing the old while we're really working hard with love to bring in the new. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad that resonated with you, and beautifully said on your end as well.
Thank you. Well, thank you for joining me for the podcast today. Everyone check out metabolicfreedombook.com to get Ben's book. Check him out online. He has an incredible YouTube channel. I was on it last night while I was in the infrared sauna watching his talks, and I was like, Ben, good job. I love the talks that you do. So check out Ben, check out his book. I can't wait to read it myself, especially chapter 10. And I'll see you guys next week on the podcast.
Thank you, Shivani. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Now I'm going to record our intro real quick before I let you.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm here.
All right. Welcome to the Fusionary Health Podcast. I have a very special guest in store for you this week. I know I say that every week, but I am actually genuinely excited about every single guest. So Ben Azadi today is going to tell you all about metabolic freedom and his new book, where he shares about how we can build metabolic freedom for ourselves. What are the different causes and all the different culprits in our life that are affecting our metabolic health? And then what are some key pieces and tools that we can use to build a metabolism that works, put ourselves in fat burning mode, not sugar burning mode, help support our brain health, our mitochondria, and our longevity overall, And then finally, some of those key nuggets of wisdom so that when we get the results we want, we can keep them. So check out his book, Metabolic Freedom. Check out this episode today that I am so excited about. Perfect.
That was perfect.
Thanks. Thanks for joining me for this episode. Check out our sponsor, Fusionary Formulas, the potent turmeric supplement used by doctors around the U.S. for patients with pain and inflammation. www.fusionaryformulas.com. I'm your host, Dr. Shivani Gupta. For more, visit shivanigupta.com. Subscribe to this podcast in Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Click the follow button or subscribe in any of the apps that you use. That's all I've got for you on the Fusionary Health podcast this week. You have the power to transform your health and achieve vibrant health starting today.